Thanks for tuning into the Three Circles Living podcast, where you can learn how to improve your life. No matter if you want to accelerate your professional career, have better relationships, be healthier, or really find fulfillment in life, this is the podcast for you. And
Yes.
make sure to share it and leave a comment with the nugget you most found valuable under the podcast. That would help us a lot.
Oh, I like that little tip you just gave there. Yeah, do what you said. That would be good.
I would love that. Can anybody do that? Everybody always? That would be
Everybody could do
great.
that.
Anyways, we are Christina Hall and Todd Berria, your hosts, and today we're going to talk about what's health worth? How to take back your body before it's too late. And I'll get us started here real quick if that's okay. Because I want to ask everyone something. What's really the cost of not being able to do the things that you love? Not just now, but think about it 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, right? I'm thinking about, I have kids. I want to be in a good state with my body, with my health, with my mental state when my kid's gonna have kids. But, we live in a world of medicine where, yes, we can be alive longer than ever before, but we're still asking the wrong questions like, are we living well? Or are we just living longer? And that was a kicker for me when I asked myself those questions, because definitely wasn't that way for me. But in today's episode, and probably this is going to be a part one, we're going to do another part, um, maybe even multiple parts on this one because it's very important. But in this first part, we're going to talk about what's most important, the really the tips that you'll ever hear, because it's the basic, it's the groundwork, it's what you need to get right first. And we're going to break that down, what it really means to also optimize your physical health. There's also your mental health. We're just going to talk about physical health first. And do that not through fads or any type of fear that you see every time you open up your social media. Like, no, something through simple, powerful choices that you can start making right now, today, not Monday, not next month, not next year, today. That's what we're all about. Because I know we're all exhausted. We're all overwhelmed with all the things that we have to
I'm
be
not
doing.
exhausted.
You're not. I know. I I was. Let's phrase it that way. A lot of people are like just trying to, how can they stop managing the symptoms and really start living? So this is what this is all about.
I got to say something. I can't help this.
Go
So
ahead.
you mentioned modern medicine, which we are absolutely insanely lucky to live in the times we live in from a medicine perspective, right? I mean, we have the greatest everything ever, greatest drugs, the greatest procedures, the greatest detection, whatever you want is we're at the height of that right now. And of course, it'll be nothing in 10 years. 10 years, it'll have dwarfed where we are now. And they have done a good job of extending life to a point. Actually, right now, life expectancy has stepped back. It's actually gone backwards a little bit. And children wise, right now, statistically, your children will not live as long as you, which is ridiculous. And it should piss you off. It should piss you off. So I, I'm sorry, I said the word should. I shouldn't say that. But I will, I think about this. And you got to humor me on this one. You know the movie The Matrix? The
Mhm.
Matrix? It's like they found a way to keep us plugged in
Mm.
so that we can then take the money as we get older that'll keep coming in from something. For most people, it won't be a lot unless you do a lot of different stuff, but those are for later circles discussion. And we can just pass it right on to the things that are keeping us alive, which have nothing to do with life. Nothing, right? So the difference between lifespan and health span, that's the thing you got to pay attention to. And I just to kind of dovetail a little more on what Chris said. I'll never forget my Aunt Lil. Everybody's got a cool aunt, I think. I had a freaking incredible aunt. She was like one of my favorite people on the planet. And one of the few people in my family that supported me when I chose to say, you know what, I'm not living in the business matrix system. I'm out of matrices. I'm doing my own thing. I'm going where my heart drives. I'm living my own life. I did that like way before anybody thought that was a good idea. It is a really good idea, by the way. So anyway, aunt, my aunt she was awesome. She was like, and she had this insane like authenticity and his killer wit and sense of humor. She was a businesswoman before women were in business, like in the 20s, right? She was just one badass lady. And I'll never forget that the last 15 years of her life, she was completely trapped in her body, totally trapped in it, right? She was kept alive by medications. She could barely see. She was in a wheelchair. To her credit, she still had a great spirit. But she loved to travel. She loved to do all kinds of stuff. She couldn't do any of those things because nobody was, we're all an experiment, right? We're only getting fed what people are usually trying to profit from. Unfortunately, we're not getting fed based on what's best for the human being. Nobody even gives us an opportunity to do that. We have to totally take our own responsibility and advocate for ourselves in that way. And that lesson, I never forgot that lesson because one thing that became clear to me with her, and is clear to me as I get older, here I'm bumping up on my 64th birthday. I don't see the world, I don't feel inside of my body any different than I did when I was freaking 20, except I'm a tiny bit, and I will say a tiny bit wiser, and in a little better situation, right? But you're going to feel like you want to do everything when you're freaking 80. But if you're stuck and can't do anything, and you can have the same, man, not quite the same, but you can have 90% of your physicality that you have in your 20s and 30s when you're 90, that's possible, but not probable unless you are purposeful. And so that's where this lifespan versus health span, I mean, I don't care about lifespan. I want to go. I heard it once said, I want to go out like a light bulb. I want to be
Mm.
rocking bright and then I'm gone. That's it. Just whenever it happens, but
Mm.
gone. All right, sorry, not sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I mean, I saw the same thing in my family. Literally, like everybody, my grandparents couldn't play with me starting in their mid 60s. They were just work. They did a lot of hard labor and hard work during their time. Um, how they grew up and all of those things, but still, I only saw all these diseases. Like you name everything, I always chuckle. Like when I go to a new doctor for whatever reason, and I have to fill out the paperwork, and they ask like, "What did your grandparents or your any of these diseases run in your family?" I'm like, "Yep, check, 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 all of them." Like there's nothing left out, pretty much, and it it hurts me. It pains me, like to see family have to go through that. And I know for sure that I don't want to go through that as I'm getting older, and I don't want my kids to have to go through that either.
You don't want anybody you care about to have to go through it. And by
Yeah.
the way, the only reason I'm like sort of like can't contain this little smile is I'm looking at myself on camera. And those of you who are hearing this can't see this, but the way the ceiling fan is positioned behind me, it looks like I have propellers coming out of my skull.
That's true. I didn't
Woo.
even see
If you
that.
take care of yourself, you can grow propellers on your head. That's fly.
You can fly off. You just take off because that's how it works.
Uh,
Actually, to your earlier point, you have a quote in your book, and I really like that because I felt like that for a long time, and hopefully it helps people to wake up. But I'm just gonna quote that real quick. You say, at best, you can manage a broken down body, and at worst, you don't get the option to do that.
yeah,
Because modern medicine, it has done a wonderful job of extending life, but not the quality of life.
right.
And in the end, you have to ask yourself, what good is it to live longer if there's little quality in those years?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's rote, but you really would give everything you've got. You give all your money away to get your health back if you lost it. You would. The challenge is for a lot of people, they can't. They can't even give all their money back and get it back. They can't. And we don't want to spend all our time on the downside of this because it's really easy to do it. We really want to like be our goal is to serve you. Yeah, sometimes we have to talk about this stuff. You got to talk about the downside just to from a wake up call perspective because maybe you're 25 and you think, well, I'm bulletproof. I'm
Mhm.
bulletproof. I'm 25. I felt that way, but you're not. Heart disease starts in your teens. Cancer can start any minute, right? That can start anytime. And you won't know about it for 7 to 10 years. That's when you'll find out about it. Heart disease starting in the 20s. I mean, there's people with blocked arteries in their early 20s at this point, in their teen years. 4,000 people a day in the United States die of cancer and heart disease. That number is not changing much. As a matter of fact, it's just sort of inching up because as a population, we're getting older. A lot of people would die of that, but they don't get there because they die of something else or they die from complications of work in that direction. There's all kinds of this stuff. I mean, statistically, it's you I mean, anytime, last year I was in the river and jumped off a log and landed on a nail that went all the way through my foot. And it made me insane to be laid up for 2 weeks.
Mhm.
If I wasn't healthy, there are people, I mean, once I had this happened, I found this out later. There are people who lose their foot because they're not healthy and their body can't handle what I went through. Or some people lose their life, right? Or they don't lose anything, but they're laid up for 5 months, right? I mean, I didn't even think about this stuff, but the point I was making, which led me to this, was just being laid up for a few days made me go crazy, right? It's like being in, I've never been in prison, but I can imagine what it must be like if you can't move, right? Human beings are not, right? There's an ancient tribal curse. May you stay in the same place forever.
Mhm.
Think about that because you'd lose your mind, you'd lose your marbles. And that's where you have to go, right? You got to get to the space where doing the things for your health are not optional. You have way too much in your life. There's way too much you can do and be and have and contribute, but not if you don't take care of yourself, because when you don't feel good, you ain't doing much. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
And that is happening younger and younger and younger and younger. I'm in the gym all the time with people half my age,
Mm.
and I see it. These are people that are actually showing up at the gym, right? And but they still have a long way to go to get healthy, but at least they're doing something, right,
Mhm.
to extend it. But anyway, Chris, sorry, not sorry.
No, no. I mean, I said that in the one of the last episodes that I I started out my life with a chronic condition, well, two chronic conditions, and I was told that yeah, you can manage the symptoms, but you not get better. And it's like, no, I'm not, sorry, I'm a rebel. So I started looking for something like, what can I do, right? How can I get control back to not be in this state forever?
Yeah. Well, you couldn't get better according to their system.
Yeah.
Right. They couldn't make you better using one widget, one hammer, right? When all you got is a freaking hammer, everything's a nail. Well, they couldn't deal with, you needed a screwdriver. They didn't have one of those, right? They don't know, right? Which is pretty
Yeah.
common, right? Again, I don't want to turn this into I'm grateful for the medical community, but
Yeah.
the medical community, which is full of like people that really care and are doing their best to help people. That should be your last resort. That's what it's for. It's for a true sickness, sick care versus healthcare. Healthcare is on you. It's not the system. The system is for when you're busted or when you're breaking or if you want to see if you're breaking. That's what it's for.
Yeah. And I mean, you talk about that in the book too, like healthcare, and you call it self-care, right? What can you do for yourself? Because the modern system won't necessarily tell you all about your own body, what you need to know. And that's the thing. And you can work with the healthcare system by knowing your body because they
Yep.
don't know you. They don't know it. They don't know your experiences, what your history is. They don't know anything of that. They get a glimpse of you when they talk to you and they have to figure it out. But they don't talk necessarily to each other. And I found that out the hard way too. Is like when I had my thyroid issue, I went to a endocrinologist, a specialist for that part of the body. He did not care about anything else that was going on in my body or how it was connected. And that's the thing, like everything is connected. So it's important that you are your own best advocate and tell what is going on because nobody else can feel anything for you. And
Yep.
I have many health stories about that. Like eventually I will share probably one or two, just to give you an idea, but understanding what you need and then ask for it. You can do that. And that puts you back into control. And that actually also helps the healthcare system to better serve you.
Yeah. That's really well put. It's it's true. And then the flip side of that, the stuff that we're going to talk about now, and then definitely into the next episode, this is about wellness, right? Wellness and optimizing your health. That's not part of the system, right? That is not the training of the people you're going to see, as well-meaning and as caring as they are. They're in their lane, and that's not their lane. Their lane is giving you a drug or helping you figure out what's wrong with you when something's not working. That's what their lane is. Your lane, right? The whole rest of it, the stuff we're going to focus on, is about not ending up there. It's about having optimal health so that you are not, you're not limited. And obviously, from a three circles perspective, you're maximizing. There's a humongous difference between not being sick and being optimally healthy. They're like each end of the spectrum. And so, you want to be on the optimal health perspective because that's vibrant, that's high energy, that's full living, that's maxing it out, that's massive productivity, that's like getting the most out of life, which you only get one of, by the way.
Yeah,
All
you
right, well,
only
we got to share a couple things before
yes, we got
we
to
can
share a
do
couple
this
of
all
things.
day.
Yes. There are four pillars that you can take control of. It's sleep, it's your hydration, exercise, and nutrition. And I know it sounds really simple right now, and you're waiting for that big secret or that magic that you've never heard of. No, it's pretty much those four things. And you just have to go dive deep into it because all of them are connected and all of them help your body to stay in that optimal state. It's working together, all of these things, right? And I didn't understand that because I put my when we look at sleep, when we look at that first pillar, I put myself through the ringer in my early years. And I thought, oh, I just need like 3 hours of sleep or 4 hours of sleep. It's fine. And I did that for a long time because I like to have fun. Like it's just me. And then even like in this season right now, if you're a parent, you might not always get your 8+ hours of sleep at night either. It's just how it works. But if you don't get that, sleep is impacting your mood, it's impacting your productivity and your overall health. Because when you sleep, there are a lot of processes that are going on inside of your body that your body needs to shut everything else off to be able to focus on that. And like there, even throughout the night, there are different hours of when different organs are actually working and doing their thing without you even knowing it. And that's why it's so important. And that's like also in, I don't know like all the specifics. I'm not a nutritionist or a dietitian or anything like that. But there are a lot of times, like when I say impacting your mood, there are a lot of hormones that are also created at night based on your sleep and then also based on all of these other three pillars when they're in place. So it's a big, big impact that it has on your life or can have on your life. Now a lot of people are probably saying, or I see that a lot, like, well, I already have trouble sleeping. So I'm, what can I do to have a better sleep routine or rhythm to actually get back on that? Well, there are a couple points. Um, don't exercise, like really simple again. Don't exercise right before you go to bed. That's like one thing. Don't have your body in that high activity state when it's
Do
actually.
exercise because exercise is
Yes.
significant for your sleep. Significant.
And we'll talk about exercise in a whole different point, but don't necessarily do it right before you go to sleep. Don't drink caffeine right before you go to sleep. Even if you think you can do it or it's just not that great for your body. Try to unwind before bed, like nothing too exciting. Screen time, I know that's hard. I'm addicted to my phone too, I get it. But put it on, put it somewhere else so you forget about it right before you go to bed, because otherwise it messes with everything, not just the what is it called, the rays and everything that your phone admits, but also like with your mind is not gonna be still enough, and then it's your thoughts are racing and one thing goes to the other thing, and then you're like thinking about things, or it's keeping you up at night that doesn't really need to keep you up at night because you're worrying about things that are not necessarily in your control right now. um a few other things, like don't necessarily drink alcohol. I know a lot of people like their wine at night, but
And some people are like, I drink a glass of wine, it relaxes me, and I go to sleep. That might actually be true for you, but it's disrupting the quality of sleep because alcohol totally shuts your body down. Right. And I'm not being hypocritical because I drink alcohol. I don't do it every day. I actually only some weeks I don't have a drink at all, but I'm also like, I'll have several drinks at a time. So I'm not, I'm not a saint. But the price of drinking alcohol is your body doesn't know what to do with it. It will totally shut down. So all these processes, the growth hormones and building your muscles and repairing your cells and your tissues and fighting off like infections and stuff that's attacking your body that you're not even aware of and replenishing your energy stores. All that stuff is happening while you sleep, unless you go to bed after multiple drinks. And then your body's like, well, we can't do any of that stuff because we got to deal with this freaking poison you just dropped in us. And all your metabolic functions shut down while it tries to get rid of the waste, which by the way depletes you, right? Then it's got to use magnesium, it's got to use all kinds of minerals and vitamins and all kinds of resources it has to divert to cleanse the alcohol, which is why you wake up feeling not so good, right? That's just, there it is. I gave you the whole physiological program right there, all in 22 very simple words.
awesome. So yes, alcohol, like just think about it. Maybe your environment, like how you go to sleep. Is your room dark? Is it cold enough? Is it like if it's too hot? It's yes, you might be cold, and I'm that person. I'm always cold, but still having a cold room is so important to have a good night's sleep. Um, is it, in Germany, we do this thing. We always air out all of our rooms every day, first thing in the morning, like making sure to get fresh air inside, doing that. Even have a window cracked, depending on where you are at. I said that if it's dark enough, like if there are any distractions, like I had a TV in my bedroom for a long time, not anymore. Like, no thanks. That's just some of the things. And then also have a routine, like a routine that works with your biological clock. I know there are some people that have to work shifts, and that's a whole other topic probably, but once I started to have a good evening routine, and that's nothing like an hour long, anything miracle something, no, but something that I do every night that is a routine in the few steps that I do. And not only help me, and I know that it helps me to come down because I know exactly what's going on. I know exactly what's happening, and it made me more productive. But I also like the rest of my family also started their routine based on that as well. And my kids knew exactly what was happening and when they can come in, when they can't, or when it's bedtime and what that means. Like it has an impact, like not just on yourself, but literally on everything else too.
Yeah, no, that's really important. And you will find the earlier you go to bed, the better quality sleep you get. And you can look all that up if you want. I mean, nowadays you can look
Yeah.
anything up if you want. Everything we're saying you can look up. But yeah, it's so important to do that. And right now it's NBA playoffs and I'm on the East Coast, so they play those games. They run later than my normal bedtime. And
Mm.
so many nights a week I'll watch some of the game while I read and it keeps me up an hour later, and I notice it.
Mm.
I notice it, right? Because I'm getting the same amount of sleep, but I'll get up an hour later, but it's not quite the same because I'm off my natural routine, which would be normally a little earlier to bed, a little earlier up, but I'm sleeping in the deepest quality of sleep time. So, we hopefully you got that one. There was way more stuff we have in front for this topic because it's just one pillar or one corner, one part of the wheel, and we'll go into all the rest the next time. Right,
Yes,
Chris?
we'll dive deep into the three pillars the next time, maybe even like two, and then have another episode for the last one because we could talk about it all day long because it's so important, but we want to give you like something actionable that you can actually do and so that it's not overwhelming as well.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.